From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. Great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get on board.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
And we are glad to have with us here a conversation regarding the upcoming event. A speaker coming to Erie for the People for Life's pro-life dinner, and that is coming up here on the 24th. It's a Friday night at the Ambassador Banquet and Conference Center. We're going to hear from Dr. David Reardon. He's the keynote speaker, and we want to welcome you in here, Dr. Reardon. Thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Alrighty, so we'd love to hear how you came up, how you got involved in this line of work here. Where's the hometown and all that,
I live down in near Pensacola, Florida, and I've been involved in researching the after effects of abortion since 1983. I heard Nancy Jo Mann, who had founded Women Exploited by Abortion, talking about her traumatic abortion experience, and then she finally went through healing and started helping other women. And it just struck me at the time that everybody's talking about politics or religion, and nobody's talking about what women go through and how they heal. And so that's basically how I got involved. I began a research project with the WEBA members and have been doing research ever since then. I published over 60 peer-reviewed medical studies about the after effects of abortion on women, and I advocate for post-abortion healing programs.
So are you a psychologist, psychiatrist? What's the line of work, and what got you to that point of this specialty here?
Yeah, well, actually, my PhD is in biomedical ethics, and it's in part driven by the viewpoint that, it's actually kind of a fact. I mean, all the people, even abortion providers, recognize that there's certain groups of women who have more negative feelings after abortion. And it's easy to understand if they feel pressured to have an unwanted abortion, if they have moral beliefs contrary to the abortion, if they've already attached to the baby. There's all these risk factors that predict which women are most likely to have traumatic experiences. But the abortion clinics don't screen for them. They take the attitude that it's up to the woman to make the decision. We're not here to challenge her decision or even to support her when she's being pressured by other people. They simply, if you have the money, we do the abortion is their basic go-to. And so to me, that's a huge part of the problem is not unwanted pregnancy so much as unwanted abortions. And we know that over 60% of women having abortions feel pressured into abortion by other people. And for many of the others, they feel pressured by their circumstances. So only a minority of women freely are choosing the abortions in a way that's consistent with their own values and preferences.
Talk about this in the context of that bioethics background of yours. Is this a conversation that is happening, you think, in the bioethics world about about the motivations or the after effects of this kind of decision that a woman would make?
It's seldom talked about in biomedical ethics. just like in many areas, people have kind of centered their positions on abortion one way or the other. And those who believe abortion should be a free choice tend to not want to look too close as to what goes into that choice. And for many, when I've kind of confronted abortion advocates about this, their position is, well, it's up to the woman to decide. And, they're more interested in protecting the freedom of women to make a choice than they are in making sure that the choice is only made when it's freely wanted and there's evidence of benefit. So sadly, I think it's not being properly engaged with in a context that really respects the fact that for many women, abortion is something they give into because of the pressures they face, not something that they really want. So it's not really about reproductive freedom so much as the pressure to abort.
Where's that pressure come from?
Well, it comes from family members, the male partner very often, of course. It can come from work, just situationally, the fear that, this is a bad timing. So even though she's got a lot of conflict inside, for many women will kind of accede to the pressures and logic. So, about 10 to 15% describe the abortions as coerced. So, I mean, that's just, the extreme level of pressure being coerced. Others describe themselves as it being unwanted. But like I said, over 60% describe it as contrary to their values and preferences, but something that they had to accept. Kind of, like bad things happen in our lives, and I guess I have to go through this. So many accept it as the practical thing to do, even though in their hearts it goes against their own moral or maternal beliefs or moral desires. And that, of course, sets them up for negative consequences. And to me, one of the big problems is they're not told that you have all these risk factors. And if you think about it a little bit, it's more likely you're going to experience severe regrets about this. So we found that 20 years after abortion, in a national random sample of women, 20% of the women are still grieving the abortion as intensely as when they first had it. So you have a minority, 20%, for whom it is an ongoing traumatic experience even 20 years later.
So, you're saying that risk factors are beyond maybe any kind of physiological risk factors. You're talking about risk factors in regards to depression, anxiety, the mental health after effects, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the problems is that the abortion providers face no liability risk for psychological injury or for dissatisfaction. I mean, they don't have to give refunds if you're unhappy with your abortion. And so there's, under most state laws, there's only one state that allows lawsuits for psychological injuries after abortion. And if they actually had to be accountable for doing a risk-benefit analysis, are the emotional benefit, because most abortions are for psychosocial reasons. The false promise that your psychological and social health will be better if you have an abortion. But when you actually look at the literature, there's no evidence of when abortion produces benefits. In fact, there's no evidence of any psychological benefits from abortion. And even social benefits are very questionable. And so if you do this risk assessment, that at least 70% of women should be turned away from having abortion because the risks clearly outweigh the benefits. I use the example often that everywhere else in medicine, they do risk versus benefits assessments. For example, if you go to get LASIK surgery on your eyes, they will examine your eyes, and they turn away about 20% of patients because after examining your eyeball, they say, you're not going to get good results. And so they are making a determination on your behalf whether or not the odds of getting good results are better than bad results. But they don't do any such assessment like that in abortion clinics. And I think that is the big problem, is that they're not doing risk-benefits assessments, because about 30% of women are freely choosing abortions, and the risk of negative effects is smaller. There's still many women in that group will have severe negative consequences, but the risk is far lower. So that's the group that they should be screening for and telling all the others, well, this might not be a good idea for you.
Talk about the impact of informed consent. Does that have any impact on, whether or not there's, that these after effects?
Well, informed consent is kind of, it may vary some from clinic to clinic, but in general, there's a tendency to under-disclose what the risks really are. For example, there's
isn't there some kind of state standard, like in a state like Pennsylvania, we're supposed to have this kind of checklist, right? I mean,
there is, but that checklist of risks is not a full disclosure. And again, even that checklist of risks should be provided in context of the risk factors present, because the risks that people face vary depending on the risk factors. But the abortion providers often will say, for example, if they're reading the state thing, well, this is the state requires us to give you this, but we don't believe in this. For example, they'll often say. And again, regarding, for example, I was going to say that there's a whole bunch of studies showing that women attribute higher suicide risk to their abortions. They will even say it's because of my abortion that I attempt suicide. But the abortion providers insist that, even though there's clear evidence of higher risk of suicide after abortion, they believe that the standard of proving that is the direct sole cause of suicide has not been met. Therefore, they shouldn't have to tell women about something where there's still uncertainty. So as long as you can claim there's still uncertainty, they're not telling. And again, that's totally different everywhere else in medicine. Every drug, everything else, you hear all these risks mentioned on advertisements about this and that, the other thing that this drug may do. Everywhere else in medicine, you inform people of risks, even if the causal link has not been proven, because if it's true, then it's a risk. But only abortion providers insist that, no, we only should tell women of what has been proven to be direct result of abortion, not what may be a result of abortion.
I'm interested also, as you've been practicing, has societal attitudes and also the introduction of the chemical abortion, what is it? I can't even pronounce it.
Mifepristone.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I don't play a doctor. You are a doctor. No, but I mean, that whole thing, has that impacted, where women's heads are at, post-abortion,
Yes, it can definitely have an impact. There's no evidence that's any less dangerous. The evidence probably points that abortion probably has greater psychological risks, in part because the woman is actually doing the procedure herself. She's taking the pill. So in the past, she could kind of blame it on the doctor rather than herself. Okay, so there's a little bit of shifting of blame that was possible when you had a surgical abortion. But also, it's a more protracted experience. So after taking the pill, the woman is going through a couple days of cramping and bleeding. And in some cases, the bleeding and cramping can be very intense and painful. But also, if she sees any tissue that's passed, that can be traumatic. And so the opportunities for trauma increase. So, and when I mean trauma, there's many different types of reactions. Okay, not everyone has PTSD. Some just have intense grief. There can be anxiety, depression, but for some traumatic aspects. But some of the trauma symptoms can be, in fact, one study done by abortion clinic found that there was significantly higher trauma symptoms after a mifepristone-induced abortion compared to a surgical abortion.
We're talking to Dr. David Reardon. He is going to be a speaker at the upcoming People for Life pro-life dinner that's on the 24th. Coming to Erie on Friday, October 24th at the Ambassador Banquet and Conference Center for the annual People for Life pro-life dinner that's happening here on that Friday night. Dr. Reardon, what are you planning on talking about with the Erie audience?
Well, I'm probably talking about a lot of what we were just discussing. I'll probably my speech is organized around 4 points. First, the pressures that women face to have abortion, because a lot of people, sadly, misconstrue, think that abortion is just a selfish choice. They don't realize how much pressure women face and all the things that go into leading to abortion, and how often it's really an unwanted experience. Then I'll talk about the impact of abortion, the psychological and the physical impact of abortion based on the research I and others have done. And then I will discuss the need for creating a healing environment for women and men who have been hurt by past abortions. Many fear that to be judged by people, especially if they perceive them as pro-life. They fear that they're going to, they swallow their grief. They don't want to share it because they're afraid of getting more judgment heaped on them. And to me, one of my big points is how the Christian community has to wear compassion on our sleeves and really promote healing and non-judgmentalism, recognizing that we all could have been in the same situation, may have made the same choice. And then fourthly, I'll discuss how all of this impacts how we can be more effective in educating the public, reaching out and helping others, and changing the political debate about abortion to at least address the issue of how do we stop unwanted abortions, which is a very much more narrow context for it, and something that your average pro-choicer can support. So we can build bridges, I believe, with people in the pro-choice community by focusing on efforts to stop the unwanted and unnecessary abortions.
You wrote a book about this. It's called Making Abortion Rare, A Healing Strategy for a Divided Nation. Dive into that a little bit. What's your main premise there?
Yeah, so as I discussed here, it creates a three-pronged strategy. It describes research and education so people understand how abortion hurts women. It promotes healing, a strategy to talk about abortion, especially in the churches, in a way that invites healing without condemnation, so that people aren't afraid of going to church because they're afraid of having a finger pointed at them. Instead, I encourage pastors and priests to point the finger to the congregation and say, what are you doing to create a healing environment for your family and loved ones and those who've had an abortion? And then on the political side is, like I said, creating a liability for pre-abortion screening, that doctors should be held accountable for not screening for these risk factors, not giving a informed, reasonable medical recommendation based on that screening, and simply doing abortions without proper due diligence. So I believe that if they face proper liability for abortions, the abortion rate would plummet, because it'd be far fewer women who would be for whom abortion could be advisable based on any medical evidence.
Do you feel that the prospect for a healing strategy for a divided nation is easier or more fraught in a post-Dobbs world?
It's about the same, really, but in the post-Dobbs world, obviously there's, to a certain degree, it's become even more politicized, right? I mean, so, both sides are much more actively pushing their agendas. I think especially in states, for example, which have passed, so the public is clearly on these constitutional amendments and everything else, the public is afraid of what they perceive as a total ban on abortion. So efforts to totally ban abortion in any state have resulted in the middle majority of people who dislike abortion in some cases, but they think it's necessary in other cases. They're not willing to support a ban. I think my solution is something that the vast majority of people, in fact, we have polling information, especially women who've had abortions. Women who've had abortions who are pro-choice and voted for Democrats favor the idea of a constitutional amendment that allows women to sue doctors and boyfriends or anyone who's involved in pushing for an unwanted abortion. So the idea that there should be proper screening and counseling and that no one should go through an unwanted or unsafe abortion has a lot of traction with pro-choicers, especially those who have had abortions themselves. So just because you think abortion should be available, at least in theory, doesn't mean it should be doled out indiscriminately. And I think that's a message that resonates with people of goodwill on both sides of the abortion debate.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I've never heard the phrase unwanted abortion. You know, I mean, usually you hear the phrase unwanted pregnancy, but I guess more education about that is really a thing, right?
Right. Another phrase I like to use sometimes is that, you know, there are basically poor choice advocates, not pro-choice, poor choice, people who are encouraging abortion, even if it's a bad choice for the woman. They like I said, they disregard for whether she's feeling pressured, whether she knows she's going to weep and cry. There was a famous pro-abortion leader back in the 60s who basically said, well, if a woman's still crying 6 months later, there's something wrong with her. I mean, that's, you know,
Wow.
just a callous attitude towards just get over it. You know, I mean, he, like many, and this is another hidden secret, is that, you know, there's basically two different types of people who support access to abortion. There are the pro-choicers who believe abortion should be available to choice. They care about women. They believe that, well, for some women it may be helpful, and who am I to stop them from having abortion? Then you have the pro-abortionists who see abortion as a social engineering tool. They see abortion as a way to reduce birth rates among the poor, so in a certain sense, they're happy to see coerced abortions. In fact, they're the ones who favored forced abortions in China. So for the population controller mindset and the eugenicists, those who see abortion as a social engineering tool, they really aren't too concerned about the welfare of women. They are concerned about population growth and global warming or whatever. And they they're willing to sacrifice a few women for the sake of their social agendas.
I'm going to take a break here, Doc, and we'll pick up this conversation after the news break here. Dr.
At Quickfill, what matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quickfill, driving America.
Looking for amazing finds and incredible deals? Visit Erie City Mission Thrift today. From stylish clothes and shoes to quality furniture and home goods, you'll discover something new each time while changing lives right here in Erie. It's shopping that feels good and does good. Come see us in Erie and Girard. Erie City Mission Thrift. Thrift with a purpose.
All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, 5th next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
And Dr. Reardon, the reservations are due by the 19th, so just a few more days to get involved. You'll be coming up to Erie here. You are a leading authority on the after effects of pregnancy loss due to abortion and other causes. And we were talking before the break, you were going through just kind of the, there's language that is out there, and language is important, right, when it comes to the abortion issue. Do you feel like the narrative has changed? You know, I'm especially, I mean, it just seems like we have a divided country politically, and I'm wondering if the abortion issue has been divided in the same ways, or is it now different? Because, you know, sometimes you hear, you know, from different minority groups of saying, you know what, we're pro-life because we're seeing, generations of our children being eliminated because of abortion and things like that. Do you think that that some of the narrative rivers are diverging these days?
Well, I think it's certainly efforts politically to polarize more. As you said, the minority communities are often very pro-life, but their representatives aren't. So the Democrats and Republicans have become very polarized over the last 15, 20 years. And to be honest, I knew many pro-life Democrats early on who were basically pushed out of the party, or at least deprived the opportunity to move up in the party because they had a pro-life position. I'm sure that's somewhat true also in Republican Party. So both parties tended to gravitate towards we're the party of choice, or we're the party of life.
We had the famous governor, Pennsylvania Governor Casey, right? Who was this pro-life Democrat governor, right? Yeah.
Right, a great example. And, even Jesse Jackson, when he first ran for president back in the 80s, 88, he was very pro-life before he ran for president. He was very pro-life. He spoke out about abortion being black genocide, and he was quoting a lot of the evidence that it was targeting blacks. But in order to become a Democratic candidate, he had to be switch over to being pro-choice. And so his rhetoric immediately changed when he began to run. So it's interesting. You look at his earlier speeches, very much against abortion, but once he ran. So the Democratic Party has basically mandated that if you want to move up in the party, you have to be pro-choice. Now, obviously, at the voter level, things are very different. People are more fluid about what what thing they're going to prioritize. But I think, to be frank, on the other side, on the Republican side, many Republicans talk pro-life, but they're not willing to spend any political capital to advance a pro-life cause, right? So just because somebody says they're pro-life doesn't mean they're going to really work for that goal. So we've seen a lot of that too. So obviously, now that there's ability to pass more legislation regulating abortion, there's a lot more efforts on the pro-life side to do so, but there's the amount of money and pushback from the other side is just great, which is again why I think shifting away from questions of banning and even state regulation, because what I'm talking about really is private regulation. If you change the law to allow women to actually sue for negligent screening and for psychological injury, that's private enforcement. And basically, it's taking it for the other side as the word of leave it between a woman and her doctor. Well, if we're going to leave it between a woman and her doctor, make sure that she can hold the doctor accountable, not, allow them to wash their hands of it saying, well, you made your choice and I had nothing to do whether or not it's a good choice or not.
Can I throw something out at you here? It
sure.
Occurs to me is there's a lot of, most of our conversation this hour has been focused on the woman of basically giving agency that she and protecting her from these after effects if she makes this choice, right? And it almost seems that a lot of what the abortion industry does is very patriarchal, almost. Like they're going to drive this woman because of the profit motive, maybe. In
part, yeah. There's profit motive. There's ideological motive. Many of them are in the eugenics population control mindset that we don't want these women having babies, because they tend to be more low income, less educated, or whatever. So there's certain aspects of that. But there's also, sadly, so some women who have had difficult abortion experiences end up working in the abortion industry because they want to make it better for somebody else. Okay, so they actually are there trying to help others. But also, every time they see a woman make a decision to have abortion, it reaffirms her own decision to make the abortion. See, I made the right choice because other people making the right choice. So there's a certain amount of desire among at least some people working in the abortion industry to see women make the choice because that affirms that what we're doing is good. Because, so there is that. Now, on the negative side, a good example of kind of the manipulation is a abortion counselor told a reporter who asked, how do you handle cases like with teenagers? She says, if I have a teenager coming in, says she doesn't want to have the abortion because she thinks it's a baby and all this other stuff, I start asking her, well, are you ready to be a good parent? Well, I don't know, Wouldn't it be better to wait till you're able to be a good parent someday? And isn't it kind of selfish to force your parents to help you take care of this baby, force Johnny to not go to school, to marry you, whoever? You're being selfish to want to bring this baby in the world. So that's the kind of manipulation that can take place. Instead of helping a girl who says, I know I'm not going to feel good after this abortion, I don't want to do this, instead manipulate her into doing it anyway for everybody else's sake. At least some of that goes on. So there is manipulation in the abortion industry where they're not telling women the full risks. They're not helping them make a decision according to their own values and preferences, but instead encouraging them just to give in to an abortion and the pressures. Because for often abortion makes sense from a reasonable viewpoint that it's not a good time to have a baby. But from a heart viewpoint, there's already a baby, and I'm attached to the baby, and my heart's going to grieve for that baby, gets pushed aside in favor of the practical, it's better not to have a baby right now question, which ignores all the negative side effects. I should add, just to shift off the psychological, but the mortality rate increases, premature mortality rate doubles after an abortion. That includes from suicide, accidents, and cardiovascular disease. There's a number of studies showing the increased risk of death from cardiovascular diseases, but nobody's talking about that. So,
what would be what's the physiology behind that?
Well, some of it's stress, some of it's psychological stress and bad behaviors, eating, drinking, or overdose. Substance abuse is very high after abortion, but there's also kind of physiological problems that. So each time a woman's pregnant, it affects her cardiovascular system because that body works hard to pump more blood and whatever. Mm-hmm. And women who've had abortions are more likely to have multiple abortions and miscarriages. So in order to have 2 live-born children, they're more likely to have 5 or 6 pregnancies compared to somebody who just had 2 live-born children. So there's a physiological effect of multiple pregnancies, at least part of it, in addition to the stress.
Well, Dr. David Reardon is with us here. He's coming to speak at the pro-life dinner sponsored by People for Life on the 24th of October. And you've talked to reporters, and you've been quoted in the New York Times, Newsweek, and other publications. Where is America at these days? I mean, I more than just politically, because in a post-Dobb era, there's a little bit of the dog caught the car here, right? I'm not sure that the pro-life movement was really ready for Roe to be overturned. What are your thoughts on that? And not necessarily politically, but just socially. Where are we at?
Well, I think everybody listening will agree that we've become increasingly divisive country, and the polarization is extreme, and it's pretty much right down the middle. The reason these presidential elections are so close is, it's near 50-50. It's not 60-40. It's right around 50-50 on each side. And obviously there's some in the middle who are swayed one way or the other, but the polarization is also marked by ridicule from both sides, where the other side is perceived or projected as being dumb or out of it or whatever, or harsh. So again, pro-lifers are portrayed as being harsh, judgmental, hateful people, which isn't the case, but it goes with the characterization that you put on the other side. So that, I think, is one of the biggest issues right now, is this tendency to characterize each other on opposite sides and to just dig the heels in over everything. Like I said, to me, it's a no-brainer to have laws that simply require doctors to screen for these risk factors and face accountability for it. But getting both sides to even bring it up or debate it is difficult to just move forward. But to me, this is an area of common ground where we can and should be making progress.
Why don't we leave it there? Dr. David Reardon, again, give an invitation to the folks to come on out. I think they still have a few days to get their tickets to the pro-life dinner.
You want me to invite?
Yeah,
yes.
Give an invitation. Yeah,
please do. Everybody come. We'd love to see a big crowd there. I look forward to coming and enjoying Erie, and I think I can at least give you some interesting facts and figures that you've never seen before. So thank you for the invitation to be on your show, and I look forward to coming next week.
Beautiful. Appreciate it very, very much.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@TalkErie.com.